Hi, I'm Steve Simpson with Black & Veatch. Thanks for joining us for this update of the municipal water demand and wastewater return forecasting. The purpose of updating the water demand and wastewater flow forecasts were to support the regional water planning process that's ongoing that will result in plan updates in 2023. The forecasts themselves were to help identify future capacity needs and to develop the information for inputs for future scenarios with the updated surface water quantity resource assessment being done. Through the forecast process, we worked with a stakeholder group that included an appointed member from each of the 10 regional water planning councils throughout the state. Their function was to review the updated information sources and methodology with us, and to function as a liaison with their council to make sure that regional input was incorporated in the updated forecasts. We had the advantage of updated information sources, and that started with the population projections. We had population projections from October 2019 performed by the Carl Vinson Institute for the Georgia Office of Planning and Budget. We also had information from Georgia EPD on surface and groundwater withdrawal permits, and we had great information from water utilities that submit water audit information on an annual basis. We did have updated information from USGS on self-serve population, and we had on the wastewater side information from Georgia EPD on point source discharges and land application systems, as well as some updated information from the Georgia Department of Health on septic tank data. So these are all of our information sources that we used. Turning first to the population projections, the graph on the left shows the various population projections that have been done over time, starting with the 2010 in blue, and then green 2015 and red 2019, shows essentially a softening through time of the future forecasts. On the right, you can see those most recent forecasts and how statewide the population is projected to increase from just under 11 million people today to about 15 million in the planning horizon through 2063. What that means for the regional water councils is a significant amount of growth, nearly 20% growth from 5.1 million people up to over 6 million people at that planning horizon. And that obviously has impacts on the water and wastewater demands. For municipal water forecasts, the first component that we have to think about is the population, that portion of the population that's self-served through private wells. Once we establish and project separately the self-served population, the remaining population is served by publicly owned treatment works, and we have great information about both the surface water and groundwater withdrawals that are currently done to support the population served by publicly owned treatment works. As we do the forecast, the first task in that is to update the per capita water demand values, and we used information reported from water utilities, and in some counties that may be more than one utility, and we used an average weighted water audit per capita value. And we also considered a period of several years from 2015 to 2018 so that individual anomalies in particular years had a muted effect on the average used for the forecast going forward. For some utilities, we didn't have water audit information, and in those cases we used average reported withdrawals and the population served in the Safe Drinking Water Information System database. We did include conservation in the forecast, obviously by using the most recent data of 2019 as the baseline. we've incorporated existing conservation efforts to date that are reflected in those water demands. But going forward into the future, we also estimated the per capita reduction due to plumbing fixture replacements that are already outlined in the current Georgia Water Stewardship Act. So in essence, conservation measures that are already baked into existing law. To update the forecast, the first step was to look at the self-supply, and we did assume that self-supplied customers use 75 gallon per capita a day, and assume that that came from the surficial groundwater aquifers. For permitted utilities, we started with that updated per capita and projected forward using that future population to be served in that area. Once the forecasts were done, the next step was to review and adjust those forecasts for specific information that we received from utilities and the councils. Those things included things like changes in the percent of self-serve population, or specific known changes that might not have been reflected in that period of data 2015 to 2018 that we were looking at. Once we did that, we did look at apparent outliers. So that would be utilities whose per capita value was either higher or lower than what we expected, to try to research how the forecast might be modified to reflect more accurately the conditions. Other examples of adjustments made included where we had known information about commercial needs that were supplied by municipalities. We actually forecast the industrial need separately from the municipal forecast to try to get a more accurate future forecast. And we also looked at things like known inter-county transfers. So we made sure that we projected water needs in the county where that population change was expected to occur, not necessarily where that water was withdrawn. With all of those calculations in mind, what you see on your screen is the projections for water demand forecast out into the future over that planning horizon by decade. You'll see those listed for all 10 of the regional water councils, and you'll see that the total does increase from 725 MGD approximately to about 758 MGD in the planning horizon. And those numbers include all 10 regional councils and include self-serve demands. Turning to wastewater flow forecasting, similar to water, there's a percentage of the population that is self-served for wastewater, i.e. they have their own on-site septic tank or treatment system. So that flow was forecast separately, and the remaining population that was served by centralized treatment facilities, we had great starting information on both point sources and land application systems that provide the service for the people served by centralized sewers. We did look at the most recent year of record when the forecasts were done of 2019 for all permitted facilities, and that was our baseline or starting point. And so the forecasts were prepared by projecting forward that annual average day discharge by the population change expected to occur in the various councils. Similarly, for future septic discharges, we use that 75 gallon per capita day water demand with a assumed 80% return rate, and then multiplied that by the population projected in the future to be served by septic systems. And again, once those forecasts were prepared, it was an opportunity to review and adjust those. Some of the information that we got from councils and utilities had to do with in the future projections of the percent of septic systems versus centralized systems might be different in the future than it is today. We also made adjustments where there were specific industrial flows or inter-county transfers in the forecast. Here are the results for those wastewater flow forecasts, again, by regional water planning councils, showing the changes by decade occurring in the 2030 to 2060 timeframe. You can see that the total for all 10 regional water councils, including forecast and self-served flow, rising from 636 approximately MGD to about 685 MGD over the planning horizon. This graphic shows both water demand and wastewater flow forecasts and change over time for those 10 regional water planning councils. You can see that both water and wastewater flow overall, as reflected in the tables that you've seen previously, increase over time. If you're interested in more information about the councils, I encourage you to visit the state's regional water planning website at waterplanning.georgia.gov. And if you're specifically interested in more information about the forecast and the tech memo and other supporting documentation for the forecast, you can use the forecasting drop-down menu. One of the additional tools that was developed through the forecast process was actually an aggregation dashboard. So if you're interested in drilling down into more specific information for a specific area, or interested in the, for example, groundwater, surface water split in a particular area, or usage by various sectors, this is a dashboard tool that will be on the state water planning website for folks to utilize as well. Thanks for participating in this overview. If you need additional information, I've listed a couple of contacts, myself for one, or contact Jennifer Welty at Georgia EPD, who's leading the regional water planning efforts for the state. Thanks for your time.